All right, how you doing? My name is Kim Olver, and I'm here to talk to you about the destructive or deadly relationship habits and the caring or healthy relationship habits. The reason we're going to talk about this today is because when you are a coach, a lot of times people will come to you for a variety of problems, and what you find is underneath many of them is actually a relationship problem. It may be a relationship with someone in their personal life that they're close to. It could be a relationship at work. And often it's the relationship we have with ourselves. We may not be happy with our progress, or we may not be accomplishing our goals, or we need some help and support along the way. So I want to talk to you about the destructive relationship habits first. Usually I ask people, and you can tell me if this is true for you, how many of you have ever been in a relationship with a significant other who wanted you to do something that you didn't want to do? I'm not the only one, am I? No, I didn't think so. Everybody has their hand up. Because it's very common to get in relationship with people and we don't match their perfect ideal picture. And so then they work at trying to get us to do things their way. So what kind of things did that person use to get you to do it their way? Right. Manipulation. Yes. What else? Oh yeah, the silent treatment. I love that one. I'm not going to talk to you. What else? Oh yeah, that's my favorite. My mother was pretty good at that. Guilt. Anything else come to mind? Oh yeah, right. But was that the person trying to bribe you, or were they really just trying to support you and help you to do something that you really want to do? Did it feel good, or did it feel kind of manipulative? That's what I thought. Can we call that bribing? Okay, great. So we'll do bribing. One more. Oh, yeah, okay. Yelling. Yelling's a good one. All right. So if you think about these behaviors that your significant other used with you, would you say that they were behaviors that helped you move closer together, or did they pull you further apart? Right. It's a no-brainer. Of course they pulled you further apart. You don't ever get any of these behaviors used with you and feel closer to the person who's using them. So we would call these destructive relationship habits. Now, there's many more than these, and what I'm going to go through with you is a list of 7. Now, there's more than 7, and I'm not trying to tell you that, there's only 7. There's a multitude of destructive relationship habits. But if we could get a handle on these 7, it will greatly increase the satisfaction and the health of our relationships. And usually when we start looking at these 7, we'll become very cognizant of other deadly or destructive relationship habits that we may be using. So before I turn the page and start going through the deadly ones and the destructive ones, what I'd like you to do is shift your focus from the people in your life who have used these to perhaps the times when you've used them. I know it's not as comfortable to think of what our use of destructive relationship habits, but we've all used them. That's the truth, and we continue to use them. So I just want to raise the level of awareness on these destructive relationship habits. So let me just draw. We're going to go over the destructive and the healthy. So we'll do the destructive first, and then we'll do the healthy. All right, the first one I like to talk about under destructive is complaining. Have you ever done that one? Of course we have. We've all done complaining. And complaining isn't so bad if all you're doing is complaining about the weather, complaining about your commute. But when you start complaining about the person that you're talking with, and you're denigrating their behavior or their character, it really tends to drive a wedge between the two of you and actually chip away at that very foundation of your relationship that you want to strengthen. So you may have some complainers in your life, like Aunt Louise, right? We all have somebody like that, where if we're invited to Sunday dinner and we know Aunt Louise is going to be there, we'll often pass and be busy or find something else to do. Because complaining does not bring people together. Complaining actually pulls people apart. So we want to try to avoid that one. The next one I'd like to talk about is blaming. I used to do this a lot with my son Kyle. My son Kyle is not the neatest kid, to say the least, and I would often be complaining about his messiness, and then when he didn't do what I wanted when I complained, then I would blame him and say things like, Kyle, we could have done something fun today, but we're not going to be able to do that because you haven't done what you were supposed to do. It's all your fault. That's blaming. You ever do that with anyone? Yeah, I know. I don't want you to beat yourself up or be angry with yourself when you realize you've used all these destructive habits. We've actually been taught that this is the way to help people get better, is to complain and blame them and use all of these destructive habits. That's been our upbringing and our culture. And so we're really talking about shifting things if we believe in these relationship habits as I'm going to outline. So the next one may be the most destructive of all, and that's criticism or criticizing. So the reason I say it's the most destructive is because many people think it's not only their right but their responsibility to criticize those closest to them to help them do better. So we have this, what I call an oxymoron, called constructive criticism. Have you ever felt constructed after being criticized? I know. I never have. Maybe you have. And on occasion, somebody will raise their hand and they'll say, yes, I appreciate criticism sometimes. So when that happens, I do some exploration with them. And what I usually find is that what they're talking about is that someone that they care for, someone that they respect, gives them feedback about something they couldn't see about themselves. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes we don't see ourselves clearly. And when that happens, it's helpful to have someone that we respect and someone we know supports us to help us uncover, peel back that veil that kind of hides ourselves from ourselves. But there's a better way to do it than criticizing. And that better way is called self-evaluation. And we are going to be teaching you that technique. What you're going to learn to do as a coach is to ask very key self-evaluation questions to help a person see themselves when perhaps they're not able to see it. So there's no reason ever to criticize anyone else. And we really want to isolate that particular relationship habit because it again is chipping at the foundation of your healthy relationship and it's pulling you apart instead of bringing you together. So the next one I like to talk about is nagging. And yes, of course, I'm guilty of this one. You can ask my children. I used to think, if I asked them 3 times and then I asked them 300 times, I might get a better response. But the truth is, if you've asked something 3 times, it's highly likely they've heard you. And they're just not interested in doing it right now or ever. They may not be looking to do it at all, or they're looking to do it in their own time. So if you've asked 3 times, you haven't gotten the answer that you want, stop asking, right? It's not helping you. And it's definitely hurting your relationship. So we're going to talk later on about problem definition in greater depth, but I always ask people, whose problem is it? If you're trying to get something to do something they don't want to do and they're not complying, is that their problem or is it your problem? It's really your problem. You're the one who's most upset by it. And if you're the one who's most upset by it, you are actually the one responsible for the solution to the problem. So in the case of nagging, I would say stop nagging, first of all, and instead either stop letting the problem bother you kind of inoculate yourself against the stress and frustration of something another person is or isn't doing, or you could take care of it. Whatever it is you want the other person to do, you can simply do it yourself and be done with it, instead of going through all this stress and frustration of trying to get another person to do something they don't want to do. So there's that, and there's always the option, of course, of continuing to nag. You can do that. I don't recommend it. It's not usually the best way to find peace in yourself or to build strong relationships. So that's nagging.